I'm going to talk to you about how tipped employees should be paid. So first, let's talk about what a tipped employee is. A tipped employee is someone that receives $30 or more a month in tip and usually works in a restaurant, bar, or a position where they interact with customers and they are tipped by the customers for their good service. Examples are servers, bartenders, counter personnel, bellhops. Those are type of people that provide good service in return for good tips. Now let's talk a little bit about how tips work. First, every tipped employee by law has to be paid the minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. You can pay a tipped employee in two ways. One is you can pay them by the hour, at least $7.25 an hour. But whatever you pay the tipped employee on an hourly rate, that is called a cash wage. We'll get to that in a little bit. So you have to pay them under option one an hourly rate of at least $7.25 an hour or more. Option two, which is really common with restaurants and bars, you pay them a sub minimum wage. Basically, it's a fancy way of saying you're paying them less than minimum wage. To bring it up to $7.25, law requires that you can pay them $2.13 an hour. It has to be at least $2.13 an hour. You can't pay them any lower than $2.13 an hour. And then you hope that they are rewarded by customers for good service and tips that brings their hourly wage up to at least $7.25 an hour. Let's take the cash wage part. Whatever you pay them by the hour, $2.13 or more, their tips that they receive has to bring their hourly wage up to $7.25 an hour. To pay tipped employees this way, we call it a tip credit. You make sure that they make at least enough money in tips to bring their hourly wage up to $7.25 an hour. You have to provide notice to the employee that you're paying them this way. The notice has to say you're to be paid at least $7.25 an hour. We can pay you as low as $2.13 an hour, and you get tips to bring it up to $7.25 an hour. The notice also has to say that if the employee does not make enough in tips per hour, the employer will contribute additional funds to bring it up to $7.25, the minimum wage. Now, let's talk a little bit about the $2.13. Many restaurants and bars make a mistake. They pay them less than $2.13. You cannot allow tipped employees to work for free, no hourly wage, and work on tip alone. That's just illegal. Can't do that. Here's how you calculate if the employee is making at least $7.25 an hour. You take the total pay that they receive each week, which is 7 days. The total pay for that week, you divide it by the hours they work that week. That gets you an hourly rate. That hourly rate has to be $7.25 an hour.